That spark of innovation, it's just waiting for the perfect combination of tools and talent to bring it to life. Welcome to Pitch, Build, Scale. I'm your host, Chris Fanchi, a recovering startup founder, veteran SaaS marketer, turned dev tech enthusiast and growth specialist. Each episode, we connect with the builders, the visionaries, and the problem solvers who are redefining what's possible with today's technology and pioneering the websites, apps, and software products of tomorrow. These are the conversations that transform how we build, how we sell, and how we scale technology businesses in a world where the tech evolves by the minute. Ready to stay ahead of the curve? This is Pitch, Build, Scale. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Pitch, Build, Scale. I'm your host, Chris Fanchi, founder of Big North Marketing, where we help dev shops and SaaS companies build predictable pipelines and scale their revenue. So if you're trying to grow your tech business and want real strategies from people in the trenches, make sure to stick around. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop the word growth in the DMs. We're thrilled to have today's guest, Tino Go, founder and CEO of Baru, a company revolutionizing the $100 billion cabinetry space by leveraging underutilized CNC machines to enable on-demand, localized manufacturing. Tino's background spans advertising, investment banking, and manufacturing ops, so we're in for a great conversation. Tino, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start by rewinding a bit. How did this whole journey begin? What led you from CFO roles in finance into tackling cabinetry and supply chains?
Yeah, so in 2015, I was overseeing a business unit of BASF. I was a PowerPoint jockey. That company was so big. But I tried to get a bookcase for my house. I couldn't find one. And I discovered to get one made was a medieval process. I mean, it was appalling. It was shocking how antiquated that entire process was, how emotionally taxing it was, how expensive, how long it took, etc., etc. And that was not only was that frustrating, but it was shocking to me because I knew that screen to machine technology, manufacturing technology had been evolving and it had become industrial grade. And the fact that no one was using this technology to help customers, the customer experience was just shocking to me. And when I came off that CFO role, I was able to do remote project work for the company, and I started to travel around, started to investigate this industry and how come it wasn't evolving. Simultaneously, I discovered that there are thousands of underused manufacturing CNC machines. They're digitally controlled cutting machines. And that led me to the realization that if I could remote control these machines, I could create a virtual factory with a local presence everywhere. And that local on-demand production allows for easy customization because it's digital, but also it eliminates all of the distribution costs. And that generally accounts for 40% of an industry's revenue.
So what was it in your background that made you feel like you were uniquely skilled and positioned to be able to take on this issue?
Yeah, well, I understood the basic concept, and I knew that it penciled out on a financial basis because from the outset, we had a 40% revenue arbitrage. And then I know how to bring teams up. I form teams. That's all I do, really.
Okay. So when you decided to go into this business, did you jump in feet first, or did you start doing it kind of as a side thing? It sounded like you were doing your research on the side. At what point did this become your full-time gig?
Yeah, I felt we had enough proof of concept and we had de-risked the technology enough where I needed to go full-time and raise some money. And so I gave away all my fractional CFO clients in January of 2020. And so right before COVID, it wasn't exactly the best timing.
Interesting.
But we ended up getting lucky because of COVID, Google employees were setting up home offices, and we ended up becoming one of Google's suppliers for home office setups. And that was our first proof of concept that we could do this distributed manufacturing. We were selling and making custom desks for Googlers. So, and I think it was 17 manufacturers around 12 cities around the country is what we were able to do during that 6 months of that program.
How were you able to get your foot in the door at Google so early?
Just through happenstance, someone recognized that we were selling custom desks, and someone recognized that hey, custom desks would be awesome for home offices.
Yeah, simple as that, huh?
Yeah, so we just got lucky. I got a phone call or an email out of the blue from someone at Google HR asking if we'd offer a 10% discount to Googlers. And it's like, yeah, we'd do that.
Yeah, you'll do a lot to land a big fish like that for sure. Well, awesome. Well, that's a very fortunate happenstance. So, what does Baru look like today in terms of team size, key markets, core offering? Where are you guys at now?
Yeah, so we launched, from furniture, we moved on to cabinetry. So it's like having self-service custom cabinets online, custom cabinets without having to get that surly cabinet maker to call you back. And so we launched with cabinetry sales last year were in the six figures, and this year I'm anticipating mid to high seven figures. And so what we do is when we get a residential customer that comes to us, we give that project over to a contractor to help that homeowner or that property owner. And the so far we've seen this repeat multiple times that the contractor that we give that project to becomes our repeat buyer because they are all of a sudden, they become familiar with the Baru, the system, the efficiency, the lower risk, the higher profits, and yeah, so they become our recurring buyer.
So, are the contractors your primary, like what you'd call your ideal customer right now, or do you also sell direct to homeowners or even to, say, large builders?
Yeah, we do sell to direct to homeowners. Anyone can go to the website and configure cabinets on their for their needs and purchase. Contractors get their trade discount, and for larger developers, like we have a 246 apartments in the pipeline, we actually innovate around the cabinets. So not only are we, for example, instead of having three base cabinets, we gang the three together. Oh well, since this particular project was going to be assembled on site, we were able, we ganged the three base cabinets together so that way it would be, instead of a 90-minute installation, it would be a 20-minute installation. So we're thinking through things all the way through total cost of ownership, depending on the type of customer and their goals, and we're able to engineer in a smart way for our customers' goals.
Okay. Are you working with any of the big home builders, or is that some area that you're trying to get into?
It's not likely that they will be interested in what we offer because what we offer is customization, easy customization, and local manufacturing. And because our supply side of the manufacturer of the marketplace is, they're not high volume producers. And so the Pellas of the or not or the Pulte's of the world, they're not concerned about customization, nor are they necessarily concerned about quality because they just want to move the house.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, their number one concern is cost, right? They want to
Yeah.
what they can get in bulk as quickly as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas our sweet spot is generally the rehabs. Like, for example, I'm in Philadelphia, and um, a number of realtors I've spoken to, especially in the South Philadelphia row homes. All these homes are odd. They lack storage, and so the fact that we can, build a built-in closet or a built-in storage into that weird nook that is otherwise unusable is is a perfect use case for a lot of these folks. Yeah, so it's our sweet spot is really rehab.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you have a tendency to be building for older homes pretty frequently then.
Yes, but also it's all about being able to get what one wants easily. For example, there was a kitchen, a narrow kitchen not far from Philadelphia in Wyomissing. And because it was a narrow kitchen, the island had to be a little bit more narrow. And yet the homeowner still wanted seating on one side of the island. And so to avoid hitting your knees against the cabinet, they made the cabinet less deep. And that's the kind of customization that normally requires an upcharge. You often have to jump from an affordable price class into a custom-made price class, which becomes completely unaffordable. Whereas with us, the way we're pricing is we're calculating how many square inches of material are being used, and then we're pricing it accordingly. And so the custom shorter cabinet was actually less expensive than the standard depth cabinet.
Wow.
And and to the extent that that homeowner actually went wild and she actually designed a cabinet around her knife block so that her knife block wouldn't slide around in the drawer. That's the kind,
Fascinating.
that's the kind of optionality that we provide. And it's really the folks that care about optimizing the aesthetics and the utility of a space.
Yeah, okay. That makes a lot of sense. How long does the typical buying process take? How long does it take to manufacture something once an order comes in?
The manufacturing process to delivery is about 4 to 6 weeks. The actual entire sales cycle from the first inkling that the customer, yeah, first contact to the point when I can send a photographer for pictures often can take 6 months to a year. And that's been the challenge because we're producing, showing evidence of that production is a long cycle time.
Yeah. Very interesting. So let's talk a little bit about the technology that's made this whole business possible. Manufacturing hasn't always been quick to digitize. What tech shifts have made your model possible over the last few years?
Yeah, so the technology is a computer-aided design and computer-aided manufacturing, CAD and CAM. Very mature technology. In the woodworking space, very mature technology. The difference, we're using the similar technology as many of these manufacturers. However, we're using it to eliminate geography. So what that means is instead of sending it from the work order instructions from the office to the shop floor, we're sending it from our server across the country to someone else's shop floor. Our work orders look just like their work orders, so it doesn't require any training or it doesn't create any surprises on their factory floor. And because we provide those machine instructions and the materials, and we can sell at half price, and our manufacturers are still earning north of 70% margins because their costs are for electricity, shop supplies, and moving a guy from a broom to the machine.
So I imagine there wasn't a lot of struggle to get buy-in from the manufacturing side because they probably already had a lot of personnel that were sitting unused or machines sitting unused that they were happy to spin up.
Yeah, the machines are generally only in use a couple of hours a day at most of these custom cabinet makers. Labor, the work floor labor is generally right-sized for the organization, but it's the easiest kind of labor to obtain and augment. And these machines are underused because the organizational bottlenecks are around management and engineering because they're dealing directly with the customers. That's why those machines are so highly idle, and that's why we've chosen to operate the way we do, where we consign the materials and we send the code.
Okay. When you say this is the easiest kind of labor to increase, what do you mean by that? What makes that the case?
Yeah, it just requires a certain, I mean, it doesn't require high education. It requires more culture than anything, a culture of care, because there's so much automation involved in the manufacturing.
So, are you seeing a wider trend of these kinds of micro local manufacturing gaining traction? Do you see this impacting other verticals?
Yeah, actually, that's my North Star. Because if you think about it, if you can eliminate 40% of an industry's cost structure and 40% of revenues that are wasted on logistics and warehousing and packaging and damage and obsolescence, I fully expect that will be copied. The business model will be copied in other industries and even within cabinetry by other startups. We've got a lot of IP, and part of it is a head start IP, part of it is true defensibility. We've got we'll be building our data pool and using that data to do all kinds of cool things. Price sensitivity, logistics optimization, load optimization as we scale. But the scaling is not a super deep challenge because, for example, my goal this year is to get enough contractors and designers so that they're ordering essentially about a project a day. And that at that cadence, we'll still be able to review the code manually, make sure everything's robust before it goes into production. But that cadence also annualizes to 7.5 million on our top line. 2.5 million is our take. And so it'll be automated pretty quickly, and we can easily go to 100 a month, 300 a month. It starts looking like a real company really, really fast.
No, it's exciting. So we've talked a little bit about the relationship with the end customer, the relationship with the contractors, the relationship with the manufacturers. What does the relationship with the designers look like?
Yeah, so we're in the process of deploying a design tool so that we can offer for free this design tool. And the dominant alternative is either $2,000 or $3,000 a year for the subscription. So we can offer, independent designers who don't necessarily want to pay that out of pocket this free tool, and our products will be directly on it. But they can use the design tool to order anyone's cabinets. We don't care. We just want them on our site so that if they need customization, they can just pull into the design our catalog. And then on the roadmap, I've already had some eager architects who are super enthusiastic about having our cabinet library in their design tools like Revit or other, especially Revit. That's a longer term sales cycle, I expect, because it requires a slightly different process. It doesn't go to a general contractor and then subcontractor, and all that control is maintained up front, including pricing and design, but it requires some expertise being moved up into the design cycle.
Okay. So what is the biggest bottleneck then to your growth to the point that you're talking about a year from now, that 7.5 million figure?
The biggest impediment to growth is our undercapitalization. We have no marketing dollars, so everything is being done on the gross margin of our sales. And so the cadence of sales, because of the cycle time, it's long, and then there's no marketing budget to accelerate people to be convinced that we're the real thing. But that word of mouth is getting out, and the fact that we're seeing this pattern that the installers are becoming repeat buyers, that reinforces the thesis.
Have you raised money at all for this venture?
Yeah, just over $500,000. We are raising a seed round, and it's really two-thirds of it goes right into revenue acceleration, market awareness.
So if you had that money come in, what then becomes the impediment to scale? Is it the designers, getting them on board? Is it finding contractors?
No, it's all easy because we save everyone either effort or time or cost. And so, those early believers, we're already established in four regions with about 60 million population. So we're producing in those four regions. So with a little bit of communications budget, we'll convince 5 contractors, 5 projects a month. I think that's very attainable in the regions we're already operating in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned your North Star is that this company maybe crosses verticals. Is that right? Are there
Yeah. Yeah, this company crosses verticals for sure, because what we are building is a digital manufacturing platform, a shared economy virtual a shared asset virtual manufacturer. But what's different about Baru versus, for example, Xometry, which is a public company, is Xometry serves engineers for rapid prototyping and production work. We're taking it down to the consumer level, that ease of to the broad market.
Okay. Very, very exciting. So, what would you say has been the hardest part about scaling this platform so far?
It's the struggle has been mostly cash because so I've raised that $500,000 since 2019. And so it's allowed the experiments, it's allowed the proofs of concept, it's allowed the continuous progress. However, the progress has been extremely cautious. Before I'll embark on a second experiment, I'll need to get validation that the first experiment worked. Whereas if I had a little bit more working capital, I would have been able to run simultaneous experiments, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have done the development work a lot faster, as opposed to, it's like, oh, I only have 5 hours of this guy a week or whatever.
How large is your team right now?
I've got 5 people part-time with me. And whereas, that's an impediment. That's why. But at the cadence of 25 a month, they'll be full time.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you're probably still involved in pretty much every aspect of the business. There's not really anything that you can outsource at that level,
Well,
even internally.
um, no, it's like we've got a good division of responsibilities and expertise. I'm principally a sales guy and a corporate finance guy, and yeah, I've got some influence on operations because the technology replaces operations, so it's kind of like, yeah, I play CEO, but my team, I wouldn't be able to do it without any of my team members.
Yeah, that's great. So, what is one thing that keeps you up at night as you're working to grow this business right now? Is it competition? Is it the lack of capital? Is it customer acquisition?
Well, the lack of capital and customer acquisition, they go hand in hand because we're living off of margin right now.
Sure.
That said, we continually have my feelers out there for funding, and it seems like their overall environment is more attuned to what we're doing. Since COVID and supply chain, it became a thing in people's minds. And then now with the tariffs, I mean, the overall zeitgeist around construction tech and the built environment. I mean, so we have a couple of conversations that are fairly warm, and so that could lead to the funding we need to kickstart this thing.
Yeah, it definitely seems like localization of manufacturing is a hot topic right now, and I feel like you're well positioned to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and that's why it's so compelling. I mean, it's as a former CFO, just the idea that I would spend years on whacking away at 1, 2, 3% a year, and the idea that we could just whack out 40%, and it was not value added to begin with. It's just like, that's inherently ethical in my mind.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a huge advantage for any businesses that can take that on.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of it. Otherwise, if it were more modest aspiration, I probably wouldn't be doing this. I'd probably be doing something else.
Yeah, that's really exciting. How have you been having conversations? You said you've got some that are in the process with fundraising.
Uh-huh.
How has that been going? What is the mood out there right now?
It's hard to say because it's as systematic as I've tried to make fundraising. It seems to have been a random event. It's like so it's hard to say out there in
Mm,
general because I'm pitching a particular type of business, and even though it's extremely scalable, a lot of venture investors, they're not familiar with manufacturing, or they look at our beachhead category, which is cabinets, and it's like, ooh, that's not attractive.
yeah. Yeah, not nearly as exciting as some big AI tech or something like that, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing. So we built this digital catalog that is manufacturing ready. So that makes us AI ready, generative design ready. If you upload our library into the AI generative design tool, we can go from that Gen AI picture to delivery.
which is amazing.
Mm. Is that something that's on your roadmap?
Yeah, absolutely. There's already a well, the world of digital design and software, it moves at the speed of light, right? And so we're focused on bridging between that design into to delivery and in cost effectively, locally, et cetera, et cetera. So there's already an AI kitchen design tool called Skip, SKIPP. And so I've heard of, I've had conversations with other founders that are already doing similar. But no one's that I've heard is really focused on, okay, how do you actually deliver on that picture?
Has there been any thought of partnerships or strategic relationships with a company like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Again, we're focused on the delivery piece, right? Turning that sales order into delivery. And so partnerships I have all kinds of conversations, and we had one, I had one earlier today with a very prominent referral marketplace for home owners.
Okay.
So, yeah, and tomorrow I'm having another one with a startup, a concierge type service for homeowners. So partnerships are absolutely, when you save 40% of an industry's revenues, you can afford to share in some of the outcome.
Yeah. That's exciting, and best of luck on that. I really appreciate the time, Tino. This has been great. A really great conversation. Very fascinating to learn about what you've been working on. And of course, best of luck on your fundraising and growth and partnerships. Before we let you go, where can folks learn more about your company and follow your journey?
Well, if they're in Philadelphia, we can meet at this storage room that I use as a temporary office. But otherwise, anyone can email me at tino@hellobaru.com, or they can find me on LinkedIn. Just make sure to put a message on LinkedIn. Otherwise, I may not see the invitation.
Fantastic. Well, and for everyone listening, please be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. It helps us get more exposure. And as always, keep pitching, keep building, and keep scaling.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to this episode of Pitch, Build, Scale. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast provider so you never miss an episode, and we'll see you next time.